and Tottenham want Postecoglou to start work imminently ahead of a big summer in the transfer market, and one of his first priorities will be those discussions with Harry Kane. Fabrizio Romano says that Tottenham have reached a verbal agreement with Ange Postecoglou to become their next manager. It will be a 2-year deal with an option of a third year, so potentially being valid until June 2026. All that remains is to strike a deal with Celtic. He also said in an Instagram comment that the "here we go" will be very soon. The Mail reporting that Postecoglou has informed Celtic that he wishes to leave the club to take over as Tottenham manager and take Gavin Strachan and John Kennedy with him, which is also an interesting point because he's never actually taken backroom staff at any of the clubs that he's been appointed to, but obviously he has taken a shine to those two at Celtic. Gary Jacobs says an announcement for Postecoglou to Tottenham is expected soon. And finally, Sammy Mockwell says that Tottenham are on the verge of making Ange Postecoglou their head coach, with hope that confirmation will arrive inside the next 48 hours. And look, whatever you got to say about Ange Postecoglou and how underwhelming this appointment is with the caliber of names that were first linked to us, with the likes of Julian Nagelsmann, Angie Slot, all those kind of names, I think it is an appointment which we should be getting excited for. I don't think it's an appointment where we shouldn't be going through with our eyes shut, because they should be wide open. But he is an impressive manager from what he has done in the past, albeit it hasn't been in any of the top leagues. But he's taken teams in those leagues which haven't been like the historic teams that win trophies year on, year out. And he's taken teams in the Aussie League that haven't won trophies for a long time, in the Japan League that haven't won trophies in a long time. And he's gone there and dominated those leagues, which is impressive in itself. And on top of that, Celtic, people forget, everyone goes, oh yeah, Celtic always win that league, which they do. But he took over a Celtic team that hadn't won the league in the previous year, and Rangers absolutely smashed out that league unbeaten the whole season. So he actually had a big kind of half rebuild job to do at Celtic, which is also impressive in itself.
Yeah, and look, fair enough. You can only do the job that's in front of you, and I think he's done a very impressive job wherever he's been. You've got to give credit where credit's due. I know he's won a treble with Celtic. He has taken teams from the J League from the bottom, apparently teams from relegation battles, right until winning the league as well in those divisions. So there's not to be sniffed at the jobs he's done there, but the problem, not the problem, but the thing with me at the moment is just that the competition right now in the Premier League is so fierce. Coming into a new division without that, with that lack of experience at that high level, how is he going to respond to that? The new kind of pressures he has now in the Premier League to get results and get to high level. He's not going to be faced the competition he's going to be facing now in the Premier League. That's just a fact. It's a new level of competition, and coming into that at the age he's at is going to be a difficult challenge for him. Look, not to say that he's not up to it just because he's 57 years of age, but coming into a new environment, a new league, the toughest challenge he's ever faced at 57 years of age, it's just going to be very interesting to see how he responds to that. Can you think about a manager as old as him who's come into the Premier League for the first time, or not just the Premier League, who's come into a top 5 European league for the first time at that kind of age and be the success? There might have been a few, but I can't think of any off the top of my head.
I can't think of any.
It must
to
be
be honest.
something very rare.
Yeah,
for that to happen.
Absolutely.
Looking at his character, looking at how he speaks, that he does nothing but get me excited for what he can bring to Tottenham. 100%. He seems like a guy he's extremely likable. He can get the fans on side immediately. He can get the players on side very, very quickly. And these are all things that we need. But I'm just talking about pure quality when it comes to being up there tactically with the managers of the Premier League. Is he up there with them? Well, I don't know.
From what I've read and from what I've seen of his Celtic teams, and what is the kind of general vibe about fans that have been supporting Ange Postecoglou teams, is that his tactical nous is completely up there, and it should be highly regarded and highly respected. And yeah, I know he's coming up against greats in the game like Pep Guardiola's and Jurgen Klopp and stuff like that. But his first point of call isn't to challenge those managers. His first point of call is to get us back in the top 6, get us playing European football again, which I think is well within his his tools. But I think it's a wait and see game with Ange Postecoglou, because we don't know how he's going to react to managing such high class players as the Harry Kanes, the Heung-min Sons, and people like that. So look, it is a risk, but I think any manager coming into this would have been a risk. And the same with like someone like Arne Slot, right? Arne Slot's only managed in Holland as well. That also would have been a risk.
Yeah, but at least we've seen him in European football. We've seen him get to a final of a Conference League. We saw him get to the quarters of a Europa League with a final with a Dutch team, which is quite rare in this day and age. I know Ajax did well under Ten Hag, but to do it a final was another kettle of fish. So at least he has that experience behind him. And also, I feel the Dutch league is probably a higher level than the Scottish and the J League as well. So even on that side, you can still hold on to more things than Postecoglou's. With Postecoglou's experience, obviously he's a very experienced manager. He's been international level as well with Australia. So
He's done a really good job there, by the way.
And he did a good job with
Won
Australia.
the Asian Cup, beating South Korea in the final, which is nothing to be sniffed at. And he also took them to the World Cup. I know, like, it's Australia, so you can't expect to do great at the World Cup, but I think that he did capture the hearts of the nation at that World Cup.
Wasn't that the one? I think he was the one when Tim Cahill scored that wonder goal in 2014. I believe he was manager
it was
then.
that one, yeah.
And I believe they did quite well in terms of the way they played. I don't think they got very far. So I guess there's that to cling on to when it comes to being hopeful that Postecoglou we can build a project around him. I'm just a bit concerned that coming to the Premier League at his age without having been at a top European league. Why hasn't he been at a top European league for so long? He is 57. He's not far off 60. Those are ages when managers usually coming to the end of their careers a lot of the time. Let alone near the beginning. So, I mean, I do wonder why he hasn't come to the Premier League, but maybe he just hasn't. Maybe there's been a stigma. Maybe I'm not being fair to him. Maybe there's a stigma about Australian managers. Maybe that's the reason people haven't taken a punt. As he said himself, when he first went to Celtic, he was seen as a joke, and people didn't give him a chance purely just because he's Australian. And maybe the whole Socceroos kind of thing, and people kind of make fun of Australian soccer or football. Maybe that's part of the reason why he hasn't gotten his opportunity. Maybe he deserves it.
The fact of the matter is that there's never been an Australian manager in the top 5 leagues at all, ever been before. So I think that, sometimes kind of people can go under the radar if they are kind of managing in unknown leagues. And it's not only that, he's bought players from the J League that nobody has ever heard of as well. And he's got them absolutely firing goals. Look at the Kyogo Farashi at Celtic, right? He scored 27 goals or something in 33, 34 games this year for Celtic. He didn't even get into the Japan squad for the World Cup. And, nobody knew of him. Nobody had heard of him. And he's come in and completely smashed it out. I believe in Ange Postecoglou, to be honest. I really do. I'm not worried about his age. I'm worried about him being able to handle the egos at Tottenham and also the defensive side of his game. I'm worried about those two things. I'm not too worried about his age, to be honest.
I'm not worried about his age per se. I'm worried about his age coupled with the lack of experience in the top 5 major league. That's what I'm a bit concerned about, because for this to be his first experience, and he's got a big job ahead of him, a big rebuild job, a lot to work out. At this club, it's not going to be an easy job to take over, and as much as we don't want expectations, at the end of the day there probably will be some expectations from the board. We all know with this board that look, the thing is, we could have a good season next season and still finish 7th because of the fierce competition in the Premier League. Are the board going to be willing to be patient with that? And then the next season, again, we could have a good season, then finish 5th. Are the board going to be patient for 2 seasons outside of a Champions League run? So
they have to be. They don't have an option, in my opinion.
Especially with the fact that we know that Postecoglou wasn't our first choice as well. We know we were going for other managers beforehand. So we're in a situation similar. I guess it's different, but similar in a way to when we had Nuno. The fact that he wasn't our first choice, and when things started to go wrong, we didn't have that belief he could turn it around because we didn't really have belief he should have been our manager in the first place. Is it going to be a similar story with Postecoglou if it starts to go wrong early? I've heard from other people that in other clubs he's had like slow starts and then he finds his way. I'm just hoping that this board are patient enough with him and are able to. Look, are they gonna have the patience to stick with it through thick and thin, or if we miss out on European football, are they gonna just are they gonna say he isn't the one and just move on from him? That's what I'm worried about with this board because they don't have patience.
They have to. They've got no option this time but to have patience. We have to give this at least till the end of his contract, and that's the additional year of his contract as well. Because I'm under no illusion for next season that it's going to be a difficult year. It's going to be very much an adjustment year. We need to get a lot of players out, a lot of players in. We're getting used to a completely new method of playing football. So I'm under no illusion that we have to have patience with this guy and have patience with the work that we do in the summer. And the club have to see it that way as well, because if they don't, then we're just going to be on a hounding for nothing and he's going to be out the job in 6 months' time. They have to have the patience. They have put us in this situation after having such a good thing with Pochettino, for going to quick fixes, sacking managers over and over again. 3 managers now, permanent managers that have come in. None of them have been given the required time and the required tools to do their job. So we have to have patience. We have to give this manager the required tools if he's going to have any chance of succeeding.
Yeah. How do we think he'll be like with the board in terms of like being ruthless and things like that? Like, do you think how do you think he'll be very demanding of Daniel Levy in terms of what he wants? Or do we think that he's going to try his best to like work within the means of the club and work with what he's got?
I think he will. I think behind the scenes he might try and be a bit demanding, but I think all in all, I think he will be happy to work with kind of what he's given and what he's got, because I think that's what he's done his whole career, to be fair.
That's what I'm feeling as well. And I just hope that obviously I think it's important to work within the means in terms of like, look, this is our budget. Let's just try and get the best player we can for how much we have to spend. I think he'll be good at doing that. But what I hope he doesn't do is has a look at the squad and decide like, I'm going to give Dyer another year just to see if I can get more out of him, or I'll give Sanchez another year to see if I can get more out of him. I wonder if he will do that, or if he's going to be ruthless and in that sense and decide like, look, I've seen enough of how you've played over the past few years. I don't think you can fit in my system. It's going to be interesting to see what he'll do with that in that kind of aspect. Yeah,
my personal opinion with that is I think that, look, he's a man that clearly does his homework. He's a man that works very hard. Right now, I reckon what he'll be doing now is looking over a lot of old videos, a lot of old footage over the past 2-3 years under Mourinho, under Conte, under Nuno, even under Poch, to see the players that are still here and trying to kind of make up his mind, because he needs to make up his mind before the players come back for pre-season. That's because we need to start transfers now. We need to start building this squad now. So I think the homework is already underway, if not already been started from a couple of weeks back. So I think he will be kind of ruthless with some of these players that have outstayed their welcome. And I think that'll be a welcome surprise to us, to the players that he does ship out. And I hope he does ship out quite a few of them fairly soon, to be honest. But it's going to be interesting what kind of players we do bring in under him, because he's got a lot of knowledge of like the J League and the Australian League, and it'll be interesting to see if we have
untapped markets.
Yeah, we found some unearthed gems in those leagues, because he found some unearthed gems in those leagues for Celtic, and they reap the benefits from it. But obviously it's very different. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's very different coming in from Scotland than it is to England. But I want to say that a lot of Spurs fans doing the rounds on social media, like completely trying to just swat this aside, saying, oh, he's a terrible manager, he's clueless, he's never going to be fit to manage this team, he's never going to be good enough to what we want to do. And yeah, that might be true. But what the fact of the matter is that we need to give this guy time, and we need to give this guy patience, and most importantly, we need to give this guy our utmost support, and he needs to feel loved from the fans. And these whole narrative around no to Ange, no to Postecoglou, I think it's just ridiculous at this stage.
Disgraceful, really, before managers even had a chance to manage. I mean, it's wrong to rule him out completely and just say this guy will never be good enough before he's had a chance to prove himself. But to be fair, I think Postecoglou might thrive under that. We've seen at his previous jobs, you know, as I said before, like he said, before he joined Celtic, he was seen as a joke. Clearly, he's been looking at those things. He reads like comments and stuff like that, or it gets mentioned to him. So he's clearly aware of that kind of stuff. We already saw Barry Ferguson, I think it was, talk about how it winds him up that he's seeing all this stuff on social media about Postecoglou. So clearly he's going to be aware of this before he comes into the club. And look, the fact he's still willing to join maybe proves to me that he's willing to take that challenge on, and maybe he'll thrive on trying to prove people wrong.
Yeah, I think he will, to be honest. And when I hear him speak, when I see the mentality of the man, I think it just fits really well with, we know the way Enoch and Levy like to work, you know. And I think that will suit their model pretty well. And I feel like he's going to have that kind of like daddy vibe that Martin Jol had when he was here, you know. Very lovable, friendly man, but, you know, knows how to get down to business and knows how to be authoritarian as well, if he wants to be. So I think he's going to be a good appointment. I'm actually quite hopeful on this one, and I do see it as a very similar appointment to a Martin Jol appointment, a kind of unknown manager that's going to come in and get the players on side, the fans on side, and just get a better feeling around the place. He just seems like that kind of guy. And, you know, it also a few similarities to, I know it's not the same, exactly the same, but Arsene Wenger, when he came into Arsenal, you know, he'd managed in the Japanese league, he'd managed in France and Monaco, which isn't the league maybe, you know, it is today, but it's still a better league than Scotland is now, that's for sure. There's no two ways about that. But when Arsene Wenger came into Arsenal, everyone was like, who is this guy? You know? And it's the same with Sam Postecoglou, you know? Just because you don't know who a manager is doesn't mean that he's a bad manager. So we have to give this guy a chance.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I completely agree with it. I think that if Tottenham have done their due diligence, and by all accounts, everyone seems to love him wherever he's been, and by all accounts, he does play the football that we need, that we want as fans. So these are all positives, and that part of it does definitely excite me about what he could bring. I just, in terms of like building a long-term project around him, right, which is what is being sold to us by the board, essentially. We're going to pick a manager to have a long-term rebuild, long-term project.
Well, they say that, but then they only give him a 2-year contract.
You're right, but I'm just saying that's what, yeah, exactly. That's what's being sold, that's what's trying to be sold to us anyway from this board, that's the direction that they want to go in. Is he the guy we want to trust in terms of, do we believe that in 2 or 3 years' time we could really be challenging for big things under Postecoglou? Is he the guy that we believe has the talent to make us challenge in the future with the guys at the very top of the Premier League? I don't know. I question that. I think in the short term, though, can he get us back challenging for top 6? Can he get us playing better football? Can he get fans enjoying their football a lot more? I do believe all those things. I do think he can do that. And if that's the remit, then I think it's a fair appointment. I think that is the remit. I don't think the remit right now is to go and challenge Man City for the title. I think that's just completely unrealistic. No, but isn't the not saying next season, but in 2 or 3 years' time, isn't that supposed to be the plan, to try and challenge? Yeah, maybe even longer than 2 or 3 years' time. We need such an overhaul of the squad. There's so much work to be done in every facet of this football club. I think first and foremost, you need to get fans on side, you need to get players on side, and you need to see a good brand of football and get the fans enjoying going to see Tottenham again and grow from there. And I think for the next 2 years, I think that's our sole aim, is to do that, exactly that. If I'm predicting how I think this kind of appointment will go, how I see it in my mind is I think he'll get us back into like challenging for top 6. And I have a feeling he'll probably hit a ceiling when it comes to like challenging for top 4 and whether he'll get in it or not. And I think that will kind of be his ceiling. That's the feeling I kind of get with this kind of appointment. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he can achieve better than that. And if that is the case, like, I don't know. It depends what we're looking for. Because at the end of the day, the board... I can tell you what the board's remit's going to be. It's so obvious. This season, get back in the top 6. Next season, get top 4. That's what they're going to be looking to do. And is that going to be realistic? I will have to wait and see. And whether, I guess it depends again what we're doing in cups and whatever as to how happy the board are with with not getting Champions League for like 2 years. But whether will the board be patient enough with someone with his lack of experience is a big question mark. Yeah, again, I think you're absolutely right. It is a big question mark, but the board have to know what they're getting into now, and that is exactly what they're getting into, a patience game. And I think we've needed this for so long now.
We're like, we should be 5 years ahead of schedule to where we are right now.
Yeah.
That's the facts of the matter, right? But we're not. The board have put us in this situation, so they've got no choice now, in my opinion, but to be patient.
But on the flip side, if it does go well, like if he does like maybe exceed expectations, I could see him being here for a very long time. If like, because I don't think he would be itching to. I feel he seems like a very loyal. I know he's going to move from Celtic to Spurs, but he does seem to be like a very loyal kind of person, a person who likes to create a family feel. And he probably sees himself as a manager who could be at a club for 5 or 6 years if things are going well. It doesn't seem to be like a character who's going to be always itching for another big move and a big move if he's got a big club like Tottenham and things are going well. So, look, I am excited. I'm more excited about what it means for our players than necessarily him as a manager per se, in terms of like how good I think he is. I'm more excited about what his style of play could mean for our players and how much better it could make them and how they'll look under his system.
But also, what you're saying about his ceiling, maybe just about fighting for the top 4, that's also fine, to be honest. That is also fine, because if you go for 3 years and he ultimately gets us challenging for the top 4 again, that's his job done. And then, you know, he can go and another manager that can take us more forward can come in. And it will be a more of an attractive proposition to another manager to come in. Because right now, we're not an attractive proposition to any manager. Mm-hmm. That, like, no manager wants to come here.
That's fair enough. That is fair enough. And you could say, look, he could get us back to just at least challenging again. And that's a fair enough position. Then maybe he can move on and we can get someone who's at maybe a higher caliber or something. Or maybe he'll be good enough to kick us on from that point of view, and that's fair enough. I'm just saying that's where I see his ceiling.
That could be right, but again, like I said, I think that's completely fine, and it'll take us forward as a football club, and that's all we need right now is just to be taken forward, because we're just regressing, and we just need someone just to lift the spirits of this football club, and he seems like a good fit that can do that.
Yeah.
So
that bit excites me.
Yeah. Not only is this perfect for Daniel Levy and Enoch for the way they like to run a football club, but they're going to be getting the Australian market now. You know, the greatest manager in the Aussie League, the first Aussie manager in the top 5 league in European football. So the Australian market is going to be on lock now.
We're going to Australia this summer,
They're going to Australia in the summer as well, with Ange Postecoglou probably, and Scott Munn. And the South Korean market is already on lock. And all it takes is for him to buy a few gems from the J-League. The Japanese market is going to be on lock, you know. This just makes sense from a Levy. Even if the football doesn't get any better, like from a commercial standpoint, it's unbelievable for them.
Completely agree. There's a lot of upside there. A lot
for them, not for us.
Yeah, there's a lot of upside
for them
for money making abilities. 100%. It makes complete sense. And I know that in Australia, I know the Premier League is obviously quite big there. I know the Spurs fan base is growing quite big. We've seen it on our channel. I look at how many viewers are coming from Australia, and it's quite a lot. So. It doesn't surprise me that maybe that goes into their thinking potentially.
100% it goes into their thinking. 100%. Yeah. I mean, you probably don't. They probably wouldn't even consider him if this wasn't the case.
You reckon? If he was an Australian?
Probably. Not that he was an Australian. The ability to capture a commercial market.
Yeah, it's always there.
You know what I mean?
Mm.
That's what's the case. So that's the situation on Ange Postecoglou. It looks like his announcement is imminent in the next 48 hours. Oh, we just got the here we go, I think.
Did we? Postecoglou will become new Tottenham head coach. Here we go. The
here we go.
Deal plus option for a further season has been revealed this morning. Green light on final clauses. Time to seal compensation documents with Celtic, then official.
We're going to be lining the streets of Hotspur Way, is that for Ange Postecoglou?
Exactly. So Postecoglou, here we go. Wow, it's happening. It is happening, people. Looks like we have a new manager.
What a great way to end the stream. We get the here we go from Fabrizio Romano. Ange Postecoglou will now most definitely be the next Spurs manager, and I'm sure the announcement will come today or tomorrow. But what a great way to end the stream. We finally got the here we go.
Unbelievable. It's time to get excited, people. Big Ange coming to N17. Let's do this.
All right.
Well, we've got some more super chats, I guess.
Oh, go on.
TF Swag says he's magic. Who knew? Ange Postecoglou.
Next.
Shahad Jisani says, thank you for voicing the frustrations and eternal optimism of all of us hardcore fans outside of the UK. I don't know if I'm optimistic about the new manager or lethargic about whether we will be back here after 2 years. Yeah, it could go either one or two ways, can't it? Let's be honest. I wouldn't be surprised if we are back here in 2 years' time and Postecoglou has gone wrong. But I'm sure that at least we'll have some fun. Look, it's going to be some fun times, I reckon, over the next 2 years. Or so,
I do genuinely believe, though, as much as there will be fun times, there will be some games where we get absolutely pumped next season.
It's going to happen.
It's inevitable, in my opinion.
Once we're working our way through whatever system we want to play, it's going to happen.